Clone Force 99, The Bad Batch. Let me tell you something. I've already watched this first episode 2 times. And that's crazy because first of all, I wasn't expecting an hour-long episode. This thing is like an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 12 minutes, something crazy like that. I was thinking more along the lines of the Clone Wars, right? 30 minutes or less episodes. And I've got to say, man, this series is better than I expected even. Like, I love the Clone Wars. It's one of my favorite iterations of Star Wars, period. Not the Clone Wars movie, because that was not very good. The animated movie that came out before the series. But the series, I think, is some of the best Star Wars stuff we get. And within that, some of the best stories that are told in that, what is it, six season series, which they just, finished off last year. Some of the best stories in there are the stories about the clones. Whenever they show the clone troopers and they have a story that's focused on them, I never thought I would imagine like that would be something I would enjoy seeing, but the Clone Wars series showed me that is extremely interesting. It's one of my favorite things. Like I said, the Clone Wars series itself, but within that, the story of the clone troopers. I find it immensely entertaining. And now that they've spun off this series of the Bad Batch, which like I said, I saw that episode called The Bad Batch in the final season of Star Wars Clone Wars. And I was like, yeah, that was a pretty badass episode. I loved that episode. And when they said they were doing a spinoff of that, I'm like, well, that's cool. It wasn't like, wow, yes, this is going to be awesome. It was just kind of like, whoa, that was an interesting group. I wonder how long it can last as a series. I think it could last a while as a series. Like, well, much more than one season. I don't know what it is. I think it's 10 episodes this season. I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. But if it's anything like this first episode, I'm all in. All in on this series. Like I said, I've already watched it twice just because it's good, man. It's really good. And I just wanted to go back and catch stuff that maybe I didn't catch before. But I can't wait for episode 2. I think this dynamic of like, you take this idea of clones, right? And you imagine they're all the same. How exciting could that be, right? But if you take this idea of the Bad Batch, which is this genetically altered version of clone troopers, which each one has different advancements in their DNA that makes them especially different from each other even, right? I think it's smarter than I thought it was, because the potential for an ongoing series is fantastic. And I don't know how they did this. When they came up with that Bad Batch episode, I don't know if they planned in advance. They must have. They must have planned in advance that they were going to spin that off into a series of its own. But I don't know. I never would have guessed it if I didn't already know the Bad Batch series was coming. But it's so good. It's so good. It just like I said, the dynamic of like, they're clones, but they're not really like clones. When you're watching the series, it's not like you're watching clones. They look very different. They act very different. All very distinct personalities. And while the clones had different personalities, the regular clones, these are wildly different personalities. And they just bounce off of each other so well. You've got the ultra dedicated, like, kind of like follow orders clones. And then you've got like the very rebellious, like, I'm going to do what I want clones. I just think it's fantastic, man. And that first episode, having this dynamic of like, I love that they came back directly where we left off in Clone Wars. Like, it's right there, like Order 66. You get to see Order 66 enacted, and you get to see the aftermath. The first episode's called Aftermath. It's all about the aftermath of Order 66 and the, attempted extinction of the Jedi. And it's just so good, and it's so cool. It's like, I feel like it's something I've always wanted to see, but wasn't sure that I didn't even know I wanted to see it. But yeah, like what happened directly after Order 66? Like, you know, I want to see what Jedi escaped. I want to see. I didn't know I wanted to see it, but now I know I did want to see what happened to all these clone troopers. What happened to them? You know, it's like because we know that going forward, the stormtroopers are no longer clones. Once you get to episode 4, they're not clones. So what happened, right? And this explains what happened, and it's really cool. And the fact that these 5 members of the Bad Batch, which this episode kind of plays with that too, because then you get one of them actually wasn't the same genetically altered, and there's actually a young female that is part of the Bad Batch now. It's really cool. But they weren't affected by the Order 66. Like, they didn't feel compelled to follow Order 66, and I thought that was a cool dynamic as well. But yeah, I don't want to go on and on about it. I just want to say how much I love this series already, and I'm hoping it continues in the way it is, because if it does, it's going to be a hell of a series. And let me say something, like, Disney Plus is knocking shit out of the park right now. Like, between the Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, and then this series, right? And then that final season of Clone Wars. And then what they're doing on the Marvel side of things, right? With those series, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, like, they are killing it. It's like, can they lose? Are they going to put out a trash series ever? You assume it's bound to happen, but with these two franchises, I don't know, man. I don't know. I know these Star Wars series are blowing the most recent films out of the water. Like, it's a different thing. And I was talking with someone on my Marvel Plus podcast a couple weeks ago, and we brought up Star Wars. And my guest was saying how much of a difference it makes when the creator of something is a fan. Like, really loves the content, like the source material, what it's coming from, and wants to do it justice and feels a connection to it. And Jon Favreau does that for The Mandalorian. And, you know, these creators on the Marvel series do that for those series. And you can tell, like, when you compare Bryan Singer's X-Men, while the first 2 X-Men films I feel like were really good, they kind of go off the rails after that. And the continuity's messed up, and they're not comic book accurate. And I feel like my guest was saying, and I reiterate here, that's just the love of the content. Like, that is showing that the person cares so much about bringing that content to life in a meaningful way, in an accurate way, and staying true to the source material. Like, it makes such a difference. And I think that is the difference too in Star Wars and these Disney Plus series. I think the people making these Star Wars series have a genuine love for the characters and the universe, and it shows in what they're creating. It's incredible. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to talk about how much I love that first episode of The Bad Batch. It's fucking incredible, and I can't wait until next week to get the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video, and if you want to see more of this, please subscribe to the channel. I do not just reviews and things like that, but I talk about current events, I talk about pop culture, entertainment news, all kinds of stuff. So if you're into that sort of thing, please subscribe for more. That's what I do here, and I try to do it daily. Or you can subscribe to the podcast, which is just an audio version of this. Just go search Daily BS. And if you decide to stick around, if you decide to subscribe to this channel or favorite or follow the Daily BS podcast, then I will talk to you again tomorrow.